So we're doing the last day of additions for this batch called Tome. It is 50% of the tank volume of rice, koji, and water. That is what we add at the end. If you follow a traditional model, a textbook model, you brew sake in what's called Sandan Jikomi. It is a 3-addition process. Roughly 25% of the rice and the koji and the water are added on day 1, including all the lactic acid and all the yeast. Then you give it a day of rest, which is called Odori. Odori means to dance. So the yeast starts fermenting and really is pretty lively by the end of day 2. And then the second day of brewing, which is the 3rd consecutive day, you do what's called Naka. It means middle. You add another 25%. So basically what you're trying to do is 25%, a day of rest, 25%, and then Tome, which is today, is 50%. So we are adding 50% of the rice and the koji and the water all today to fill up the rest of this tank for fermentation. So that is a traditional method. For these small batches, Joel and I 100% do the traditional method, which is 25% wait a day, 25% and 50%. It's doable for the 2 of us, but you're talking about 2 guys in their early 50s. So when we brew the full-size batches, which we're about to do in a couple weeks, it's too big. So on the last day, we would have to steam twice. Not a thing that we love to do. Steam, cool the rice, clean everything, fire up the steamer and steam again. So what we did was we added an extra day. So Sandan Jikomi, which means 3 days additions, we added a 4th day. It makes it so it's a lot more manageable for 2 people to make a full-size batch. So what we do is 25%, 25%, and then instead of doing 50% on the last day like we're doing today for the full-size batches, we just do 25%, 25%. It adds an extra day. It means we don't have to steam twice in one day, which is very nice. And it really makes it easy for us to brew full-size batches with 2 people. So that's what we do traditionally. I've actually talked to a couple of people in Japan who do 6 additions, 8 additions. 8 additions would be 12.5% every day. So they didn't want to buy a bigger koji room or a bigger rice steamer. It allows them to do less every day, but they do it every day to build up the batch. Their sake is delicious, so I think they're doing something right. Joel and I have added an extra day. So instead of doing 140, 140, 280, which would require us to steam twice in one day, Joel and I do 140, 140, 140, 140. It has made 0 difference in the quality of the sake, and it makes it way more manageable for 2 guys to make sake in a large tank. So that's how we do our regular batches in the big tanks. Today we're doing small tanks. Sandan Jikomi, the 3 addition, is totally possible. So today we're adding 80 kilos of rice, and that's pretty easy to do in one steam across 2 tanks. But if we were doing a giant batch in the big tanks, definitely we would need to split it across 2 days. The 3-addition process in Japan exists because you don't want to overwhelm one of the 2 microbiological processes that's going on in this tank. So at the same time, koji is creating sugar from rice, and then yeast is creating alcohol and flavors and aromas from sugar. So you don't want to overwhelm one of those 2 processes. So ideally what would happen is koji breaks rice into sugar, and then yeast eats sugar and makes alcohol and carbon dioxide and flavors and aromas. That's how fermentation works. And so the balance of those two processes makes really good sake. So if you were making too much sugar but your yeast wasn't so healthy, this would be a giant tank of food that would be delicious for any microorganisms in the room. And on the flip side, if your Koji wasn't very healthy and you weren't making a ton of sugar, your yeast would run out of food. And then what would happen is the yeast would start eating other yeast cells and would create an off flavor called autolysis, which is not very good in sake or beer. It's a big flaw in brewing. So we need to provide the yeast with plenty of sugar from breaking down rice. And so that's why you do Sandan Jikomi, the 3 addition process.